This is the Gambling Gauchos.
Hey, if we keep playing and fighting for each other, and no matter what happens, we just say, what's next? That's all we do. Somebody turn on some damn music!
You're listening to the Gambling Gauchos. Talking Texas Tech. Betting on the Big 12 and beyond. We've got everything you need. Money lines, memes, and matadors.
Well, you want to quit, Ethan? That'll be the day.
Now, here's Kyle Jacobson and Rob Bro, the Money Line Matadors.
And Ryan Mainville.
Casino Cowboys, the Parlay Picadors.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig. Win.
The Gambling Gauchos. Oh, and one more thing. It's all West Texas. It always has been.
Welcome to the Gambling Gauchos. I'm Rob Rowe. He's Kyle Jacobson. He's also Ryan Mainville. That's two different guys. Live in the Cardinal Sports Center studio. If you need to gear up for an upcoming Texas Tech athletic event or your kid's Little League or anywhere else, or just get some Gauchos merch, you can do it at Cardinal Sports Center. We missed out on sponsoring a Little League team this year. I found out who the sponsor was and not happy. But it's not us. I'm sure Cardinals did their uniforms. They look awesome. They do Little League jerseys all over the place. Uniforms? Jerseys? Whatever. If you need a Little League jersey for your kid's team, go to Cardinals. They can hook you up. Team sales is a big part of what they do. If you want custom gear, if you want to get a Gauchos hat and put your name across the side, more power to you. You can do it at Cardinals. You can also customize anything you want in their customization shop. MyCardinalSports.com. Kyle, Ryan, how you guys doing?
Still digging a little bit from that baseball series.
That's a tough weekend.
That's the way baseball goes sometimes.
Stickball. That's a six sweeper.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later, though. Let's do basketball first. Money, it's been a while. You were on vacation and eating bad elote and all kinds of things. Sorry, I didn't want to bring up that. I had bad shrimp a long time ago. I still don't like talking about shrimp, so I'm sorry I brought that up. But
getting to know the Gauchos.
Maybe I had 17 blankets on. I was dying in my room. It was the worst chill sweats I've ever had. Bad shrimp from Costco. Maybe a moratorium on the season, Money. I know we did the spaces, but some final thoughts and state of the program, in your opinion.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back, boys. It's been a minute. Glad to be back. Obviously, rough go, for this weekend and hoops in general, just kind of, looking around, figuring out where to go from here. There's not really any clear answer, and there kind of won't be until, Texas Tech finally announces a hire, gets some staff in the building, and they can start building out the bench with both coaches and players. But I think right now there's a leading candidate for the head coaching job. We're going to get into that a little bit later and break down what that could look like at Tech. But I think overall, not a terrible position for Tech to be in right now. I think there's a lot to like. I think there's a lot that's still to be figured out. But I mean, I still, like, this has been my take really the entire offseason. Texas Tech is one of the best jobs in the country. You can come here and win. NBA level facilities, great home court advantage. Lubbock will always show out. You can recruit here. You can win big games here. You can go all the way here. And so I think, we can take a sober analysis of all that's going on, who's already hit the portal, who may be hitting the portal, who may not be coming back. But I think overall, like I'm still very bullish on Texas Tech's future as a program, regardless of where this offseason ends up heading.
Player-wise, a couple already in the portal. Kyle, I don't think we've done this either. Do you have a wish list on the portal? Staying, going? Now, obviously, if you want a kid to leave, don't say that, but maybe a wish list of staying, and then a type of player you want to get back. Maybe already looking forward to McGASland coming in. Is there kind of a wish list of type of player?
Yes. Before I get into that, I do not want to go down the road of relitigating Mark Adams's, we'll call it separation of employment from Texas Tech, so as to leave the exact verbiage there a little bit ambiguous. I do not want to relitigate that over and over moving forward. But to anyone who is maybe reluctant to acknowledge how bad the state of the program was when he left, consider this. Either before his first season, can y'all hear my dogs barking? You want me to go yell at him real quick?
No, man. It's all right. That's just your heartbeat.
Either before Mark Adams' first season or before his second season, a lot of guys maybe were asked to leave the program, which would, what I'm about to get into, would point to maybe poor talent evaluation or poor development, or chose not to be part of this program and went elsewhere. And here's what they did. Malik Wilson was on a Sweet 16 team this year at Houston, a 1 seed. Now, he didn't get a lot of playing time. I think he was hurt. Kevin McCullough won a Big 12 championship, bounced in the round of 32.
Malik Wilson set out to leave because it was a double transfer. He chose to leave and knew he was sitting out just to go to Houston.
Terrence Shannon had probably his best statistical year in college. Didn't get far in the tournament, but he made it. It's more than anyone who stayed at Texas Tech can say. Chibuzo Agbo, round of 64 at Boise State. Sadar Calhoun, and I think he transferred actually in the middle of Beard's last year. Round of 64 with Drake out there in Iowa. Jamarius Burton became the dude for Pittsburgh. They made it to the round of 32, won the play-in game, won the round of 64. Hated that as a Mountaineer fan, but happy for him. Vladislav Golden with the Owls is in the Final Four. Micah Peavy won TCU's second and third NCAA tournament games since, I think, the LBJ administration. Namari Burnett at Alabama, Sweet 16, 1 seed. Tyreek Smith even at Oklahoma State has made it to the NIT, and they finished higher than you in the Big 12 standing. So my point being, and thank you, by the way, to the anonymous tweeter who DM'd that to the Gauchos. He put it all nice in a spreadsheet for us. My point is, anybody who either chose not to be affiliated with the Texas Tech program over the last season or was asked to leave probably wouldn't switch places if they could do it all over again. And that was kind of like what we wanted to prove to a guy like McCullough. Like, okay, go to Kansas. We don't need you. We're going to make another Sweet 16 run without you or whatever, and it didn't pan out. So I think it speaks to how bad of a spot you're in when a guy can go to Boise State, Florida Atlantic, Drake, literally anywhere, and find himself in a better position than he would have been had he stayed on this team. So in terms of guys, now that we're talking portal, I would put them into like tiers, I guess, of how badly you want them to come back. I think Jalen Tyson is certainly tops on that list. Pop Isaacs is probably right there along with him. Daniel Bacho, if he's first third of the season, Daniel Bacho, and the guy that was getting a lot of hype all offseason, you do need a big man now that Fardaws is out of the picture. I might put those three kind of toward the top. Secondarily, I liked what I saw in flashes from guys like Lamar Washington, Elijah Fisher, still young guys that you can mold. And then guys that maybe tier 3, tier 4 that aren't huge priorities. KJ Allen, he's close to out of eligibility, was never able to carve out a role for himself. Fardaws ready for that drama to be over with. Don't really desire to see him come back. Davion Harmon, I mean, he's a guy with experience. I guess he'd be more toward the top of that list. Who am I missing here that still has eligibility?
Kerwin Walton, does he have another season left?
Yeah, I think Walton and Damarian Williams, if you feel like you can out-recruit them, I would say they're not in that tier 1 priority level or tier 2 even. But I think they could be role players for you if you find the right guys around them. So yeah, that's kind of how I would slot those two in.
Can I add a little more pain to your previous spreadsheet?
Let's ride.
Clarence Nadolny played in 9 professional games, scored at least 8 in 8 of them, and had 19 points twice.
Do you remember when we were pretty much unofficially bounced from the tournament when we lost to TCU by 1 or whatever it was?
Uh-huh.
Wouldn't you have loved to have Clarence Nadolny matched up with Mike Miles down the stretch in that game?
Yeah.
He could have scored 3 points in that contest, gone 3 for 4 at the free throw line, and just put him out on defense, and that might have been the difference maker in that game.
Yes. And in the Kansas game, when McCullough big-bodied everyone down low and took the ball, and then Noren Sodiase afterwards tweeted, "Man, grab the ball." Like, just somebody grab the ball. And then he, paraphrasing, but he said these guys aren't tough, basically. Nadolny, first comment, "Yeah, we got to get tougher." He would have been the toughness that you're lacking, I think, on this team down the stretch. But a guy that allegedly is coming in, I've been in and out on if I thought he was coming. I do now believe that McGASland is the next guy. Other people smarter than I am have been more sure for longer, but his team certainly seems to play like maybe some of the better defensive teams that Texas Tech has had play. Toughness, togetherness, seemingly knowing what the other one's doing down low, overhelping on purpose. Are those hallmarks, or is that just kind of peak McGASland, Ryan?
I mean, that's in his DNA. It's just tough basketball. Every single game that I've watched from him, and I'm sure we'll plug this a couple of times this episode, but I'm making a video on McGASland, kind of just overviewing what he's done at North Texas, some of his play style, some of what he's done and recruited around. But I mean, it's just been fantastic defense year after year. I mean, he's been top 50 the last 3 years. And we can even talk about offense in a little bit, but the defensive intensity at which North Texas teams have played with over the last, 6 years now that McGasland's been there, it's just been a staple for this program. And I think that's kind of something that Texas Tech needs to get back. Obviously, this year you just kind of lost any identity of what this basketball team was, especially on the defensive end. Like, it just looked like a completely different program. But defensive intensity is certainly something that North Texas teams have played with. They've been one of the best teams in the country at defending the three the last 2 years, which I know whenever Tech fans kind of see a good defense, something that gets you worried is the 3-point shooting, because that's obviously been a pitfall for the no middle the last couple of years. But that's something McGasland has managed to counter year after year, and he's done a really good job at that, especially the last 2 years. I think last year team shot like 28.7% from three against North Texas on the season, and this year it's 30%. So, I mean, his defenses have been incredible. And when we start, ranking players and who we want to return, like tier one for me is Jalen Tyson, because I think he's got legit NBA potential. And I'm not talking like star player, but I could certainly see him sneaking in, the back half of the second round if he really reaches his ceiling. Pop Isaacs is obviously there as well because of the natural talent that he has, but also because McGasland has really one of the best track records over the last couple of years at developing lead guards, especially on the offensive end. Like, he's managed to get really high quality looks from the perimeter, his guards that have transferred out from North Texas and gone to play for, P6 programs have translated really well to the next level. And so those two guys are tier one for me. And then I think tier two, right at the top, is Lamar Washington. And like the more I watch Grant McCasland, like Lamar Washington just feels like a guy that would just fit so well in that system. I think that McCasland could really help bring out some of his strengths offensively. And then Washington just really has some of the better defensive hands that I've seen from a guard in a while. And obviously I know that turnovers were an issue for him at points last season, didn't shoot the ball as well as he wanted to. But I think whenever you've got a coach that's going to play around your strengths like that, Lamar Washington is certainly at the top. So defensive intensity, for sure, a hallmark for Grant McCasland, but something you're going to hear me say over and over again is the lead guards that he manages to develop and recruit have just been success after success. And that's something that hasn't been a strength for this program since Keenan Evans, really. I mean, this team has just struggled to find reliable lead ball handlers. So a lot to like. I understand some of the hesitations, and I'm sure we'll get into more of that whenever this is, pen on paper. But overall, I think there's a lot to like in the current shape up of the roster. It's just got to stay that way.
Yeah, it really does feel like, a roster with Elijah Fisher and Lamar Washington and Jalen Tyson would really mesh well with the McCasland style. Tyler Perry, kid at North Texas right now, would be fun to get. I think he could translate to the Big 12. Staff-wise, are you of the mindset that you have to go get somebody with an offensive mind to run the offense, or do you just want to get McCasland to be McCasland?
I wouldn't hate bringing on an offensive guy. I think the thing that's really overblown about McCasland's offense is it's boring. Like, it's hard to watch at times. It's not always exciting. It's slow as hell. But the quality of shots that this offense generates has been so good. I mean, they've shot the ball 35.8% from deep or higher the last 4 seasons. Tech hasn't done that since the national title game. So it's been, 4 seasons for Grant McCasland and 0 for Tech in the same time span. The quality of shots is always good. Again, the lead ball handler play always excels. And so I would like to bring in an offensive guy just because I think he could use some of that. I think it'd be good for him, especially if he can kind of back off and just lean into a little bit more of what makes his defense so good. But the reality is this has been an efficient offense the last couple of years. Whether it's pretty to watch or not, I mean, we can talk about that all day. But the reality is this has overall been a pretty efficient offense, especially at the level that this team has been playing at and with the talent that he's had on his roster.
Also, when he was in the JUCO level or the level right before UNT, his offenses were pretty electric, or at least scored a lot more. Now, the JUCO style lends itself to that. You're always playing up tempo. You think of Steve Green in that respect. Yeah, I think you said it best when you said it's boring but not bad. And the last 2 years, this offense for wide stretches, especially this year, the offense was just bad at Texas Tech. It was bad and boring. McCasland's offense does not seem bad.
San Diego State beat Creighton today 57-56 to go to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the theme of the tournament is defense travels. Like all the teams with elite defenses that have been pretty good or elite in that regard all season are the ones, for the most part, that have made a deep, surprising run playing above their seed level. So I'm fine with it. I mean, I think most fans are. They want to win. I think Tech fans, going back to the Mike Leach days in football, have this idea that like it's supposed to be fun and exciting. I would rather it be boring and win than exciting and be mediocre. So I'll probably save my McGASland takes until it's officially official. And I mean, that's one of my biggest concerns too. Is like, I think that also maybe gives you a certain ceiling if you never, because he's had some dreadful offenses. Like some of them are mediocre and some of them are just like really bad. I think that gives you a ceiling when you're like Ken Palm 250th in offensive efficiency. But if you're 100 something and you have a top 5 or 10 defense, you can still go a long way with that. So anyway, I'll holster any additional takes on Coach Gass until it's official. But I think I mostly agree with Ryan.
Yeah, what do you need, a top 40 offense to win a national championship? Top 40 offense. What's the stat? Top 40 offense, Ken Palm, top 20 defense?
I think that's right, yeah.
I know Nate Oates and Matt Painter have not really done a ton, and they've had some good offenses at Alabama, Purdue. I mean, even look at Buffalo. Like, yeah, they're at a talent disadvantage, but the year that you housed them by 20 or whatever, from wire to wire, they had like the fastest pace offense in the nation that year, scored on everybody. They were a really popular pick as a 6 seed to win that game and make a deep tournament run. And, they had nothing for you because you had the best defense in the country that year, or, 1 and 1A with Virginia. So I'm fine with defense winning some rock fight, ugly games. I think that travels. I would want to at least be competent on offense, and I think he can be. And I think it maybe changes the equation if he, has access to a different recruiting pool and talent pool. But I like having an identity. I like having a culture, and he's been very consistent. Even his good seasons, his bad seasons, they're not all too different in the win column. I mean, he wins 20-plus games every year, no matter what level he's coaching at. And so sign me up for that if he's able to duplicate that success here.
Yeah, and if he was 23-14 at Texas Tech, it would be a much different seeding too. I mean, you wouldn't be in the NIT if you were that record at Texas Tech. Ryan, if it's not McGASland, let's just say the donors and the administration just wake up tomorrow with a surplus of money. What's a name that you would put in the hat as a main target just in the dream world? Who do you think could win at Texas Tech?
I mean, I really like the looks that I've got from Dusty May really throughout the tournament. Obviously, now it kind of feels like I'm cherry picking because he's made the Final Four. But kind of my take on him from the beginning has been this is a guy that wins a lot of games. His offenses are always really good. I mean, he's on record saying, like, I love FAU, build me some new facilities, but I love it here. But, I mean, he's a guy that's kind of always piqued my interest, even more so than some of the other names that have been floating around. And so Dusty May's one that obviously intrigues me quite a bit. But kind of interested to see what happens with Rodney Terry after today. I mean, I think the odds of him ending up in Lubbock, even before, the talks of Grant McGASland kind of being the front runner here, would be slim to none. But I think that's a guy I think there's two sides of the coin. I think the reality is this is a team with loads of talent. I think it does not matter who recruited it. This is a team with a ton of talent. It's easier to win with this team than it would be to not. But this is also a guy who is coached really well everywhere he's been. I saw some takes on Twitter the other day about him not being a good recruiter. There's just no meat to that for me. This is a guy that recruited Bryson Williams to follow him twice, almost did it a third time to Texas, but eventually, Texas Tech ended up winning that fight. But I think, Dusty May is one that certainly intrigues me. And then I'm just generally curious to see kind of where Chris Del Conte goes from here.
Can I push back on the Rodney Terry point? Because I think you and I might disagree on this.
For sure.
So, I mean, I think some people were comparing like the hype of the Beard hire when he first came here in 2016 or 2017, whenever he was hired, and saying like he had skins on the wall and McGASland doesn't. And in my opinion, they both have one tournament win as a 12 seed, I think. McGASland was just at that level longer, Sun Belt, Conference USA, that type of conference. Beard was ascending so quickly. But I think had Beard spent 6 years at Arkansas Little Rock, it might not have looked all too differently than McGasland's tenure at North Texas for the past 6 years. But Rodney Terry, going back to 2011, he's been head coach for more than a decade, and then this season, pretty much a 500 guy. I mean, I talked about McGasland's consistency, like almost always has 20-plus wins no matter what level he's at, always has a winning conference record. And Rodney Terry has some stinkers in here. I mean, he went 3-11 in conference play at Fresno State, 5-11. They did get better as he stayed, but one NCAA tournament appearance, and they lost. I just see a lot of like middle of the conference finishes at that level of basketball. And until he got to Texas, where he's handled a tough situation on one hand with, being thrust into the interim role mid-season, handed a great situation on the other hand because he's given this loaded roster. Until this year, I mean, like, there's nothing on that resume that, pick his 6 best years, and I would take McGasland's 6 at North Texas over him. So that was a name that, however plausible it might be, it never really excited me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I'm intrigued to see what happens from here. This will only be the second time, as you mentioned, that he finishes in the top 100 of both offense and defense in KenPom, which is pretty dreadful for a guy that's been around for over a decade. I just think that the complete disrespect or, dismissal of him as a good coach because of this roster isn't necessarily all encompassing. Like I'm not saying I want him to be the head coach at Texas Tech. He's not probably within even my top 5 favorite candidates. I just think there's more to him as a coach than just being a guy that was handed something that Beard made on a silver platter.
If I had a blank checkbook, I would still be going after Sean Miller.
Same.
I can't help it.
He's been number one for me this whole time. And we haven't heard him. That hasn't been reported anywhere, rumored anywhere. So that may have been one of those, like, we've been tweeting, make him say no for 2 weeks now. That may have been one where you called me, he said no, and it was a 30-second phone call. Or maybe you just never reached out. But that was always who I wanted. I'll say this, if the hire is McGasland, and this is where I think this is not an indictment on him personally, but he is not the caliber of candidate I thought you could hire coming off of this 5 or 6 year run, the investment you've made in NIL facilities. I didn't know if it was going to be Sean Miller, but, you get when fans start dreaming about Sean Miller, Rick Pitino, Billy Donovan, whoever else, and then you get a guy that you could have hired in 2016 before you had any of this success, before the Womble was built, before you were at the forefront on NIL. I can see why it's disappointing from that standpoint. It feels like you're not capitalizing on the momentum of the program. The flip side of that coin is that a splashy hire isn't always a good hire. Cliff Kingsbury, I think, was a splash hire. Didn't win a lot while he was here. A guy with a resume like McGasland, a name like McGasland isn't a big, sexy hire, but if he wins here and builds a program, I don't think anybody's going to mind too much. So I do think there is legitimate room for disappointment from that perspective that I just laid out, but that doesn't mean that McGasland is a bad hire.
And I mean, I talked about, Rodney Terry finishing in the top 100 of both offensive and defensive efficiency in KenPom since he started coaching in 2012. Sean Miller has only finished a season not being in the top 100 of offense and defense once since 2011. I mean, this is a guy, when you open his KenPom coaching profile, it's a lot of green, a lot of green, like a guy that's just done a lot of incredible things, especially on the offensive end. So I think the Sean Miller, thanks Dwayne, I missed you too. I think the Sean Miller talk is there's definitely room for excitement there. And like, I mean, he's a fantastic basketball coach. We can talk about the NCAA violations or whatever, but this is a guy he just wins games, man. He's a good coach.
He didn't commit any NCAA violations. He was just on the forefront of NIL. That's how we would frame that. Empowering the student athlete.
Yeah. If Rodney Terry's not the head coach at Texas, Sean Miller will be. Book it.
Which would be funny because Rodney Terry just destroyed Sean Miller's team.
Yes. Yeah. But
48 hours ago, whenever that was.
just a feeling.
Yeah.
All right. You want to talk some stickball? Ryan, you going to stick around?
I'm gonna jump off.
Okay. You have any final
I love
thoughts there,
y'all.
Ryan?
Love y'all.
Do you want? Is that the final thought? Love you too.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, Ryan. All right. So Texas Tech softball.
Hey, real quick,
Yeah.
because I got to get this ad read in. If you want to see me do a 180-degree heel turn like that, join us on Patreon so you can get access to the Discord. Because I was out on McGASland, mostly because of the reasons I just said. Like, I wanted the big name hire. I thought that you've elevated yourself as a program to get a bigger fish. And so I was like, when those reports came out that he was a front runner, I was like, no McGASland, don't do it. And then I started diving. I was like, okay, well, hey, he won at Midwestern State. He won at North Texas. He can recruit here. We'd have an identity. He's a young guy. So anyway, if you want to see me do a 180 and get whiplash, patreon.com/gambling gauchos. We were, of course, talking through all the coaching hire rumors and developments in the Discord server with hundreds of other devoted Texas Tech fans. It's always a good time in there. So join us if you want, and a little bit of a preview for the Discord mailbag. I guess that's how you get access there as well, but we'll save that segment for later in the show.
It was a really quick turn too. Like maybe in 10 minutes.
Yeah, it was like, I'm out on McGASland. Let me look him up on Wikipedia. And I was like, well, hang on a second. No, I think really, though, it has helped me see both sides of it. I get why people would be disappointed with the hire. I also could probably sell somebody on it and find legitimate reason for optimism with it. And so at the end of the day, there's some things that I feel strongly about and would try to convince somebody to see my vantage point. But on this, I do think both sides kind of have a good case for why they would like or dislike the hire. So I'll probably live and let live on this one. I truly get it both ways.
Yeah, and I know everyone needs to have a take, right, in today's world. On this basketball hire, I really am just going to wait and see. Because I don't know. I want to think you're in a better spot than just kind of settling for McGASland, but if he was the guy you wanted the whole time, you didn't settle for him, you went out and got your guy. If he wins, it works. If he doesn't win, it didn't work. And you're just kicking the can down the road a few more years, which is frustrating, but is what it is. And hopefully you're winning football and baseball games in the meantime. Unlike this weekend where you didn't win any baseball games. Sorry, I was just trying to get back to baseball.
Yeah.
Second sweep of the Tadlock era, I believe, in Big 12 play.
TCU last year, was that the only other one?
Yep.
Wow.
I think that's accurate.
I thought on the radio they said fifth sweep of the Tadlock era, but I'm not confident in that. I was kind of in and out. So
Big 12.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that maybe fifth is total.
Yeah, so unless you have a certain starting point, I made a list of the good and the bad if you want to.
Okay.
So getting swept sucks.
Yeah.
It's very detrimental, obviously, in the Big 12 standings. Very hard to come back from a sweep. Although you got swept about this time last year against TCU, and in your last series in Lubbock, you controlled your own destiny for both an outright and a little bit of margin of error for a shared Big 12 title. Didn't get it done, but you did actually survive that early season sweep. In that respect, in terms of the standings, it doesn't matter if you lose by 20 runs or on 2 consecutive walk-offs by 1 run. More on that in a minute. You still don't have your starting center fielder who was batting 400 plus when he went out with a wrist injury, so that sucks. Your arguably best reliever, Brandon Beckel, was unavailable due to a bullcrap suspension. Could have used him Saturday and Sunday, don't you think?
Yeah.
Your Sunday starter coming into the season, Bo Blessey, hasn't played in a while. Didn't have him. Who I would have said was your best reliever coming into the season, Derek Bridges, hasn't played yet. You didn't have him. You're on the road versus a team that has now won 13 straight baseball games. They're the preseason Big 12 favorite, and they're coming off a trip to Omaha. So if all that sounds like a bunch of excuses, maybe you can perceive it that way. My expectation going in, and I said this on the podcast, was take 1 out of 3, don't get swept. You lose 1 game of ground in the standings to Texas and live to fight another day. And you were literally about this close on a couple, game 2 and game 3. You had a couple really long shots off the wall, and they had a couple that just barely got over the fence. And so that's where stepping back and saying, yeah, getting swept sucks. I say that the games with how they played out, how the team performed, they were very competitive. I didn't lose confidence, I guess, in the big picture long term. I think their ceiling is still the same as it was before this series. I think they were very close to getting 1, maybe even 2 in this series, all while not playing their best and playing pretty shorthanded personnel-wise. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Bazell, Harrelson, Cash, Maxey, Bravo, a bunch of freshmen or redshirt freshmen just played their first series in a true road environment against Texas, who again have 7 losses, but they lost to Arkansas, top 5 team. They lost to Vanderbilt and Missouri, top 10 teams. They lost to LSU, top team at the time. Like, they've played a really hard schedule, Texas has. That was a really good team. I still think Oklahoma State, Texas, and Texas Tech are the top 3 teams in the Big 12. TCU is still really good. Like, you got beat. You got swept. It was bad. What's next?
What's next? And that's what, as fans, our reaction to the game, our tweets don't impact it, but I would hope that the team's mentality inside the clubhouse reflects the what's next. Like, yeah, it sucks to get swept. It sucks to be tied going into the 9th on Saturday and Sunday and to lose in walk-off fashion. Now, I'll remind everybody, you didn't sweep Texas last year, but you took 2 out of 3 in almost identical fashion. You stole home rather than a wild pitch resulting in a plated run. Walk-off grand slam from Kurt Wilson versus just a walk-off solo shot today. But guess what? You didn't win the Big 12 last year.
Nope.
And Texas went to Omaha, and you didn't even get out of the regional. And so if you get swept this weekend and you host a regional or playing in a super or in Omaha, is anybody going to really care that much? And so if that's where I don't want to deal with fans that just want to whine about it. Like, yeah, again, it sucks to get swept. There's no way around that. But act like the sky is falling and all of a sudden we don't have a baseball team. I can't get on board with that because I think that Tim Tadlock is a good enough coach and this team is mentally tough enough between the ears to lick their wounds, learn their lessons from this weekend, and be a better team for it come April, May, hopefully into June. That's my only – I'm not going to try to tell anybody that, oh, it's actually okay that you got swept. But I think – come May or June, we might look back on this and look, if we're winning a regional on our home field, it's going to sting a little less. That's all I'm saying.
Look, getting swept is bad.
Yeah, breaking.
It's baseball. Baseball is a season sport. In football, you live and die by each week because it really matters. In baseball, you can't look at one weekend and say, all right, there's your team. You can't win on the road. It doesn't work. Now, are Tim Tadlock teams better at Danlaw Field? Yeah. They're going to play like 40 games at home this year. And if they win a bunch of those, they'll play their entire postseason run until Omaha at Danlaw Field. We need to get these guys a new ballpark because we score too much at home and can't score enough on the road. That is so dumb.
It is. Like, did the length of the fence in the outfield cause Kevin Bazell to step off second base after doubling off the wall? No. Did it cause you to get thrown out at home because the backstop plays different there? No. Like, you made base running errors. You didn't pitch your best during several stretches. You failed to capitalize with runners in scoring position. But, like, look, if every single out was just like a fly out to the warning track at other ballparks, you might be like, okay, yeah, like, we're only built to win one way. But you had a ton of traffic on the base pass and just didn't do anything with it. And so if you can get on base that frequently, you ought to be able to get on base, make contact, put the ball in play once those guys are on base, and you just didn't play very good situational baseball. The other thing, Rob, is like the players already know.
Yeah.
They don't, like, nobody needs to be told that it sucks to get swept or that, like, this weekend wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Like, you think they don't freaking know that as soon as they go back to the locker room? Now, that's where I hope that the players' reaction is different than some tweeters' reaction. I hope that they're on to TCU already and they don't want to have that taste in their mouth any longer. If they're down in the dumps crying about this result all week and it bleeds into next series, well, then you let Texas beat you more than 3 times and it just snowballs. So that's why I just say I hope that the team is not fazed by it as some fans are. I just think long term you can turn it around and it's not like the sky is falling.
Yeah, I'm not worried. It took extra innings for Oklahoma State to beat Baylor on Friday. Kansas State beats Oklahoma on Friday and Saturday.
Did they complete the sweep today?
TCU swept. I was getting there. Let me see. Yes, Kansas State came back and won 8-7. And TCU swept Kansas.
So I would say from preseason expectations, even with the sweep this weekend, I would say Texas Tech has trended higher than maybe they were picked preseason, and OU has trended downward from where they were picked. I guess we'll find out really quick if you're better than TCU or not. But you've already played Oklahoma State and Texas, which I think many would have pegged right now as the top 2 teams in the conference. And again, this is where, like you alluded to, it's a 55-game season or whatever. You lose a series, get swept in late March. Well, you could go on a tear, especially in the second half when you play these lower half of the Big 12 portion of your schedule. It's just a long season. And, yeah, fans treat it like football or basketball where, like, every game moves the needle on whether you're going to make the tournament or not. And, again, the ball flies a couple more feet when you're at the plate or a couple fewer feet when they're at the plate, and we could be talking about a totally different series. So it really didn't change my mind too much about what this team is, what they can be. On a scale of 1 to 10, how panicked are you on the panic-o-meter?
Where it's panic? 10?
10 is like we suck, we're not making the tournament. 1 is like you're certain we're going to Omaha.
1.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to Omaha.
Okay.
Probably still going to win the Big 12.
All right.
Where are you?
Like 4.
4?
Yeah.
Because of this weekend or because what you've already seen?
No, 4 to me is just like I recognize there are some like very reasonable deficiencies.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you are better, way better at home. And like you need to get healthy. You need to find some starting pitching consistency. Yeah. So I'm not worried about like not making the postseason or, oh no, we're a bad baseball program. Tadlock's lost his touch, but I recognize the deficiencies.
I would be surprised if you don't host a regional.
Oh, I'm planning to be in Lubbock for the regional.
I wanted to make one more note. Do you know the only way to get walked off? Do you know the answer to that? The only way, it's not a riddle.
It's to either have the lead or be tied in the bottom of the 9th or extras.
Yeah. You didn't quit fighting.
Exactly.
You tied it up.
again, there's two sides of this coin. One, you've only scored first. I think they said on the radio 8 times this year in 23, 24 games. So that's not good. Like, I would like to get out in front of some of these teams.
Right.
But that also says that, half your wins you're clawing back from a deficit, and maybe it's really early and not a big deal. But yeah, Saturday and Sunday, I'll be honest with you, I thought we were like kind of out of it. I didn't have high hopes. And then there I am in the bottom of the ninth, glued to the radio. And so I liked the resilience. Like, again, in the standings, it doesn't matter if you lose by 20 or on a walk-off, but the fact that they clawed their way back in after some really tough breaks and like not playing that well for certain stretches, to me, is a positive sign. You would have liked to finish it off, but it's better than just laying down and rolling over.
More positives. Tracer Lopez's defense has really improved.
He can play.
And at the plate, I feel like he's improved. Obviously, after a sweep, you can pick at bats where guys didn't shine. Cash, a couple of strikeouts, but he hits the triple today to tie the game or to get you within 1. And then his pitch runner scored to tie it up. Bazell, Green, Hester. I mean, I'm really high on this offense. If Beckel was available this weekend, if Blessy and Bridges were available this weekend, you don't get swept. Now, injuries happen to everyone. Obviously, they're not there. You can't pitch them. But I just feel like this team is going to be really good. They're good right now. I think they're going to be really good down the stretch.
I also just hate, especially in baseball, the hindsight revisionist history. It's like Andrew Devine on Saturday throws a wild pitch. It winds up scoring the winning run.
Balks and then throws the wild pitch.
Yeah, fair point. Everybody on Twitter goes, why in the world is Andrew Devine in the game? Because he had a 1.8 ERA going in.
Yeah,
like
he's been really good.
He's a good pitcher, that's why. Like, are you telling me you knew he was going to balk and then throw a wild pitch? Like, because if you did, then we need to fire Tadlock from this lifetime contract. And since you're such a savant, maybe even a sidekick, we should make you the head coach.
Yeah. Bullpen work. I catch myself doing it all the time. I question every MLB manager, and certainly I question Tadlock all the time. But you don't know. And especially this early in the season, you have to find a guy to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And with the stuff that Andrew Devine has, when he's good, you have to trust that he can go out and get those outs. Or else, why do you have him and when can you throw him?
Mm-hmm.
You have to see if he can do that.
Yep.
And you have to execute when you're called on.
If you want to walk off Grand Slam for a meal, check out our friends over at Rahino Barbecue. Rob, I will be partaking when I'm back in God's country this coming weekend. Be there for the TCU series. Can't wait to get back. And we'll be at Rahino Barbecue, at least on Saturday, maybe Friday too. They're open Thursday through Saturday. Order online, RahinoBBQ.com, to make sure your food is there when you arrive, because the lines are long and it goes fast. Give them a follow on social at Rahino BBQ. Longtime supporters of the Gambling Gauchos. We appreciate their support. Rahino Barbecue.
That is a 6:30 first pitch Friday night, and then a couple of 2 p.m. starts.
I also saw that I love this take. This is so funny to me that our pitching coach sucks. That's common. That's like that's like the center spot on the post-game L bingo card for Texas Tech Twitter. It's just like blame the pitching coach.
Yeah.
Same pitching coach that, by the way, had last year's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday starters drafted so high that they chose that route rather than coming back, and who could blame them? And so, whine about the pitching coach all you want, and he'll just keep sending guys to the MLB draft, and we'll reload, and he'll develop guys like Molina into really good starters. It's crazy.
Rumor has it Big Hen will also be in attendance Friday night.
That's a big one. We're talking Picador of the Week from a couple weeks ago.
Big Hen, you could be in attendance every night if you wanted to.
Heyo.
Let me flash my cash here.
Do you want to talk like potential lineup changes?
Yeah. I don't know. Maxey looks good defensively. Do you want to put Bazell behind the dish? If you do, who's playing third? Hudson White playing second, because then you alleviate the DH because you can just DH Austin Green. Right field, I think you're still trying to figure out who is there. But I like 1 through 5. I wouldn't mess with that at all. Maybe you're pushing Harrelson back, but
I think my only hang-up in the lineup right now is the DH spot, and alluded to this last week. I think on Saturday, maybe Sunday, Saturday. He slotted to bat 7th, and like anytime your DH is batting 7th, I think it begs the question, like, okay, if anybody batting in the bottom third of the lineup, if they're not giving you a glove, unless your lineup is just absolutely stacked top to bottom, then like, what are we doing here? He's a righty, which is important because you're lefty heavy, and Texas kind of exposed that in certain spots. They just go lefty on lefty and kind of take advantage of that. But I think, if you want Maxey to catch every Saturday to give Hudson White a break, I think Hudson White could either DH or go to second base and let Austin Green DH. I think Vuletic is a guy you've gone to a lot of times in pinch hitting situations. He gives you more speed on the base paths. Is a guy that, later in the game, if he's your starting DH, you could move him to outfield if you needed to reshuffle some things. I think Woodcox has done okay. He did all right today. Brought in the game time run in the 9th. So I don't know. I might like to see you sort of tinker with that position, and I think you can get Maxey and Hudson White some ABs, whether it's at catcher, at DH, at second base, and move that around and maybe get some more production out of that spot.
I just really like the middle infield right now with Tracer Lopez and Austin Green. But again, Green's a switch hitter. So, that's a value to you. Beyond that, yeah, I just don't know. I think Woodcox is probably going to get more at-bats moving forward at DH. I think Ty Coleman, man, I don't know. I think it is a matchup-based thing, too.
I'm predicting Owen Washburn is due for a big turnaround this season because I don't think he's, at least lately, I don't think he's swinging the bat poorly. Like, it's kind of bad luck. He's hitting it where the defense is. Now, he's a lefty, so, like, I don't know if you want to lean into that any more than you already are. But I think whether it's as the starter in right field or some situational hitting, DH, whatever, I just can't believe that what we saw from him last season, his stats they're due to come back around. I mean, they've got to be. So I think he'll be a bat that comes alive for you a lot more consistently moving forward.
Sorry, I just saw your TV tweet. All right. I wasn't going to get into that on the show, so we'll move on. Ready for a Discord mailbag?
Yeah, I think so. Anything left to say on the baseball front?
Yeah, but I would rather holster that because I think anything else I have would be future stuff and no more reactionary stuff on this weekend.
How do you think the defense did this week?
I thought you played, obviously you still had some errors. But again, I don't... when Dylan Carter's in the outfield and Harrelson's in right field, I think you're a lot better defensively. But the infield, I really would have liked to see Maxey block that wild pitch better. But again, I don't think there's any other moves to be made defensively. I think you just have to play better.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned this, but I didn't watch any of this series. I listened to the entire thing on the radio when I could.
Shout out to the Longhorn Network.
Yeah. Jeff Haxton does a great job describing the action, of course. And he certainly made it sound like there were some well-hit balls in the infield that our infielders made a great play on, that Cash scooped a lot of throws, and they barely beat some runners. You turned 2 a couple times. I think you didn't get that going until later in the series. Maybe you didn't have a double play until Sunday. And then, of course, Hester at the fence in left field with a sensational grab.
Yep.
But like you said, there's still some errors here and there that cost you runs in close games. So would like to see that cleaned up, but I think you do see improvement, though. I don't know if the stats really bear that out yet. But like you said, the shortstop position with Tracer Lopez is kind of locked down. You've been pretty good at turning 2, or you've been really good at turning 2 early in the season. I don't know if you're still leading the country in that. Really, until this series, I thought that was a pretty consistent strong point of your defense. I don't know if you're great at keeping guys from running on the base paths. Certainly having Dylan Carter healthy and roaming center field makes you better. So anyway, that's just another, again, on my worried-o-meter from 1 to 10. That's why I'm hovering around a 4. I'm not panicking. I'm not worried, but I recognize that there are some areas you could improve on, and I think that's one of them.
Certainly. But Tracer Lopez looked really good this weekend.
Yeah. Now, if you want the best defense there is, should you ever need it, hit up our friends over at Barnett, Howard, and Williams, bhwlawfirm.com. They hope you never need them, but they're in your corner, playing the hot corner on the infield, as it were, if you do. 3 Texas Tech grads. They handle all sorts of criminal defense, catastrophic injury, if you got hurt working on the job, family law, you name it. I think maybe the only area of law they don't do is like copyright law. I asked them about that with people stealing our stuff, and they said they were a little less familiar. So anyway, Barnett, Howard, and Williams, bhwlawfirm.com. Appreciate their support of the Gambling Gauchos. The best defense there is.
I need an honest answer.
Yeah.
When you asked me what I thought about the defense, was that a long con to set up an ad read? That whole segment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely it was.
Touche.
Good point.
Touche, good point. All right, let's figure out where we need to start this mailbag. The Discord mailbag. Brought to you by Diversified Lenders. Start bench cut the names only. Matt's El Rancho. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Dookie Chases.
What's the last one?
Dookie Chases?
Okay, I'm cutting that one.
That doesn't sound like a great restaurant name.
That sounds super appetizing. I'll start El Rancho, bench, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and cut Dookie.
I would also cut Dookie.
Although, did you know, I know this is name only, since moving to Fort Worth, learning a little bit about my new community, Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is one of the last places that JFK ate, because he spent the night in Fort Worth before going to Dallas the next day, and I think he had dinner at that steakhouse. I could be wrong. Maybe he just ate there one time, but I think that was one of his last meals.
Ruth's Chris is in Fort Worth?
You know what? Yes, it is, but totally different steakhouse. Forget everything I just said. JFK's last dinner was at a different steakhouse. Completely made that up.
I always thought that was a New York thing. Ruth's Chris. Everybody cuts Dookie's, T-Pope says.
Somebody who knows Texas history or presidential history probably knows the name of the steakhouse. The reason I said that is because I was there. I was at the steakhouse, and it has on the wall, famous people that have eaten here. I think Elvis and JFK right before he was killed. But that wasn't Ruth's Chris. It was a different steakhouse. So I don't even know what I'm talking about.
Sorry, I was trying to do a quick Google. Is there a bigger bum in college basketball than Brock Cunningham?
I guess it depends on how we're defining bum.
It's a long silence.
I thought you might answer it first. He's actually, love him or hate him, he's actually impacted games. So from that standpoint, I'd have to say there are bigger bums. But in terms of dislikability, he's probably like the biggest heel in college basketball, at least for like Big 12 teams.
Yeah, he's this year's Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
This year's Christian Laettner.
I will say, I'm not trying to like rag on the guy, but of all the dudes that Texas has assembled on that team, them having him on the court with the ball in his hands, taking shots down 4 with like 30 seconds left was a little bit mind-boggling to me.
A little bit. What are you bringing to the Picador potluck? Did you ever go to?
You go first. Let me think on this.
Funeral potatoes. You know what a funeral?
Funeral
Yeah, you know what a funeral.
potatoes.
Yeah, oh man, the diced potato casserole thing with the cornflakes on the top. It's a great potluck option.
Okay. Man.
Or jalapeno poppers.
Yeah, that's a good one. I made some. This would not be appropriate for like a potluck, but I made some really good. Made a good like breakfast on the griddle this morning. So I might just like refuse to read the room and bring like some griddled pancakes and bacon to the potluck.
I highly think of my pancakes. I think I make the best pancakes. But griddled pancakes are way better than any other pancake. That
So good.
That crust you get on the pancake from the griddle, top notch.
Yeah.
I love the Blackstone, man. It's the best purchase I've ever made.
That sounds like we're announcing a new sponsor, but we're not. We both just really like the griddle.
Yeah, we also got accused of doing free ad reads for those restaurants.
Yeah. Yeah, we got to cut that out.
Apparently Ruth's Chris is in San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, and Fort Worth.
Hey, can you explain this reference in the comments? The he would he gwittied the breakfast. What is that?
It's a new TikTok trend.
Oh, okay. That's why I don't know it.
Yeah. Do you know what the gritty is? Oh, with the Vikings.
Yeah, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. So people will gritty in the movie theater or the mall, and then it's like the camera pans to their buddy, and it's like, oh my god, he just gwittied into mall. Yeah. Oh my god, Kyle just gwittied into podcast. That's what it is. That's gonna be on no context.
Yeah.
Start bench cut cane sauce, Slim Chickens cayenne ranch, McDonald's barbecue sauce.
Actually, I've got a quick rant here.
Okay.
How many restaurants are we gonna allow to get away with this? Just putting Thousand Island on something and calling it special sauce, secret sauce, cane sauce, whatever. I'm over it. Just say it's Thousand Island and let's move on.
It's not Thousand Island. Cane
Whatever.
sauce.
Isn't that basically what it is? I've never had it, but
You've never had...
Isn't it the same as like Big Mac sauce?
This is one of my favorite things you do. You have such a strong point, and you just land it so well. And you say, I mean, I've never had it, but that's what I just assume. You're just so confident.
Anyway,
I mean, yes, all the special sauces are the same. It's ketchup and mayonnaise.
I was at
Except
a burger
Big Mac
joint in
sauce.
Austin, and they called it special sauce. I was like, this is the same as Big Mac sauce, cane sauce, whatever. Anyway.
Well, Big Mac sauce doesn't have ketchup in it.
What were the options again?
It's paprika. Cane sauce, Slim Chickens cayenne ranch, and McDonald's barbecue sauce.
Start McDonald's barbecue sauce. Cayenne ranch, that sounds Cayenne sounds good. I'm not a ranch guy, though.
Sounds what?
And then I'm cutting cane sauce because it looks gross and because the comments doesn't like the slander, so I'm going to lean into that, play the villain, and cut cane sauce.
I would start the cayenne ranch.
I respect that.
It's a really good ranch. I would bench cane sauce. McDonald's barbecue sauce of the barbecue sauces is one of the worst.
Yeah, but we weren't start bench cutting it against other barbecue sauces. We were bench cutting it against two sauces I would never put on anything under any circumstances.
Yeah, I would cut it off between these three. That's what I said.
Yeah,
it was my turn, and then I did it, and then
so on the cayenne ranch, I respect it, but I don't agree with it. On the McDonald's sauce, I both disagree with it and don't respect it.
I do like that their barbecue sauce is not sweet. It is. I mean, it is sweet, but it's not like it's a little hickory in there too, I think.
I like when we start bench cut something and then I analyze how you start bench cutted it.
Cutted.
Yeah.
I prefer Burger King's barbecue sauce. Chick-fil-A's honey roasted barbecue sauce is the best.
I haven't had Burger King in I don't know how long.
I like their Wendy's has good barbecue sauce too.
Yeah.
Start bench cut Louisiana hot sauces, Crystals, Tabasco, Louisiana Red Dot.
Starting Louisiana Red Dot. I don't know if I've had Crystals.
You should.
I'll bench it. I'll take your word for it and bench it, and then I'll cut Tabasco.
Yeah, Tabasco sucks. Can softball make a regional in year one?
I will honestly plead ignorant on this. I'm not sure how the format compares to baseball, or I'm probably not well educated enough to speak on that. But I know they're playing well, at least until this weekend. It kind of really mirrored the baseball team in a lot of ways. 2, I think, 1-run losses on their way to getting swept. So felt like 1 or 2 of those got away from them. But
yeah, they got walked off on Friday, and then I believe lost the lead in the 6th on Saturday, and then just got beat today. But they looked really good this weekend in spurts. Texas is a really good program. They're ranked 14th, I think, or 8th, one of the two. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State are really good. And then Baylor, I think, is right about where Texas Tech is. And then you have Kansas and Iowa State, who stink, frankly. If Texas Tech can get where Baylor is and be the 4th team in the conference, I think you'll actually be able to make a regional. It's going to be tough, but if you lose out, Kyle, I think you'll have a winning record. I think if you look down the schedule, so good start. Good start. Who do each of you have winning it all next Monday?
UConn. I think they're playing at an insane level. I was this close to picking them in my bracket because they're going back to our discussion earlier about Ken Pom offense and Ken Pom defense. They look like the most balanced to be really good in both of those categories. I picked Texas as the emotional hedge / reverse jinx. You're welcome. Because I was getting nervous there, Rob. I was like, they're really going to get to play Florida Atlantic for a natty here, and I will be in shambles at that. I'll just be absolutely sick. Especially with your lack of tournament luck, like those really deep runs with Beard, you caught no breaks. You had to play the 6 in round 2, then you had to play the 2, the 1, both times to get to the Final Four. And then when you got to the Final Four, you played a 1 in Michigan State, 1 in Virginia for the natty. Like, there was no Florida Atlantic or Miami or San Diego State on those tournament runs. And you know who feels sick right now? Kansas State. Because, my goodness, it's never easy to win games in March. There's no easy path to the title game, but comparatively, Kansas State, man, it was wide open for them, and they didn't get it done.
Yeah. Another thing. Steven brings this up. Steven Stevens. Texas Tech's ace didn't pitch this weekend, and they didn't have an injury update or anything. That was a weird thing. So you were thin 1 run twice, including the walk-off. Maybe you lost by 2 Saturday, but it was really close. And your ace didn't pitch. And generally they pitch Friday, Sunday in softball. Oh, I missed this earlier. Chicken Express gravy with serendipity salt is the GOAT. The spicy serendipity salt in the gravy was one of the best things I've ever had. Do you ever eat Dairy Queen?
Yeah.
I've not eaten Dairy Queen in a long time, but I used to do the ketchup float on top of the gravy and get a little hot cold action, dipping your steak finger in the ketchup gravy. Mix. Don't mix it in. Just put it on top, and then you get both gravy and ketchup.
You ever been to the Dairy Queen in Seymour?
The slowest Dairy Queen in the world?
Yeah.
I have.
Bring a novel with you, or brutal.
You ever been to the Dairy Queen in Oh, where was it? It's in New Mexico. Or on the border to it had a giant ice cream cone in front of it.
I don't know. That
Remember
doesn't
that
ring a
one?
bell.
Giant. I would also pick UConn. Are you guys at all worried about potential Twitter presence rivalry with Viva the Matadors?
No.
No. We respect Viva the Matadors. Matadors. They're a new player in the game, but 5-star prospect. I think they play the game the right way. I think they have a good respect for the veterans in the Twitter world. We've been here a year or two, and they're just coming in, but I don't think they're trying to vie for our spot. I think they just want to coexist, and I think that's a good way to play it.
Man, you hit like a ton of coaching speak cliches there.
I tried.
Plays the game the right way. I love that.
And that's Viva the Matadors with a Y. Does Money respect the podcast? I think he does. Another guy who plays the game the right way.
Yeah, I think he respects the podcast.
He's got a lunch pail effort. I think he puts his head down and works hard.
He's a high IQ player.
Yeah, I think so.
He gets the most out of his talent.
Absolutely. I think he's sneaky athletic. He's taller than you expect him to be. I think that's it here, man.
Getting to know the Gauchos. But the one who's not here right now.
Yeah. Well, he is. Tad says that was a great answer. Cheesy steak fingers are the GOAT.
What are y'all eating?
Hold on.
God, y'all make fun of my palate. What in the world are we doing here?
Hold on. What is a cheesy steak finger?
I think it is what it sounds like.
Is that inside the breading? Or are you melting cheese on top of it?
I mean, look, I eat cheese on almost anything.
I've never had it cheesy.
I'm open-minded here, but what are we doing?
Oh, there was another thing going around, Kyle. Let me ask you this. You order a cheeseburger, and they say it's $3 extra for cheese. Would you pay for the cheese?
I would be playing a situational type game in this instance. I'll be honest, I probably would say yes, but I would probably not go there for a burger ever again.
So you would bite the bullet in the instance and then not go back?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't. I think cheese is a pretty important ingredient. Like if they told me, hey, we don't have jalapenos or grilled onions, like, okay, but I can do without those. And I can eat a hamburger instead of a cheeseburger, but it's a pretty important ingredient there. So I would probably bite the bullet and do it, but just choose to get my cheeseburgers elsewhere moving forward. There
was a couple on a first date.
I saw this, actually.
The guy didn't want to pay for the cheese, and so she ghosted him.
And I get doing that on principle because, like, that is ridiculous for a slice of cheese. I went to dinner one time with a guy who he actually owns a couple of restaurants in Lubbock. We were out of town, and they were charging $19 for a baked potato. And he was like, man, hell of a margin on that potato because, who knows how much they buy it for, 50 cents at cost. And, there's preparation that goes into it and staff time, and you add some other ingredients. But, yeah, they're marking that up, 2,000 times.
For a loaded?
2,000%. Yeah.
What was it, truffle butter?
I don't know.
$19?
Yeah, for a baked potato.
The cheese steak finger texter Ryan says, no, they make the steak finger with pepper jack cheese in it. Limited time only at DQ. Thank me later.
I might try it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly not knocking it. Pepper jack is great.
I think pepper jack is a good fit for that menu item.
Yeah.
I was thinking like American cheese or something. I was like, yeah, I don't know about that.
I've got a chicken fajita burrito waiting for me after this. It's back there. It's way behind me now. I think I slid it back too far.
Is the burrito off camera?
Do you see it?
No.
Yes, it's off camera. It's right here. See, I grilled it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Papa Briggs is liking that shot right there.
Yeah. I want a still shot of that on No Context because that was a great, just like nice breed.
I'm gonna put that as the YouTube clip art.
Yeah.
I'm done, man. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, not really. I'm excited to be back in Lubbock. Bullish on this baseball team. Let's freaking go.
Chase says a solid burrito roll. Thank you.
Oh, one more quick final thought. Just a reminder, we are on a different podcast feed for our midweek episode. So if you haven't subscribed yet to the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast feed, we're over there with a bunch of other podcasters representing other schools from the state of Texas. But that's where we'll be on Wednesday or Thursday whenever we get that out. I think we'll be talking maybe more spring ball. Rob, I want to talk a lot of Big 12, conference realignment, Brett Yormark type stuff. And so one more quick plug for the Patreon. If you want to submit any questions for that podcast in the Discord mailbag, join us this week and get those in before maybe Wednesday night. And we will get to them on the football episode, and then we'll be back. I think we actually also have a preview tentatively scheduled with some TCU baseball podcasters. And so we might, I guess, have 2 coming out this week, or maybe I don't know. We can plan that.
We can double drop.
Yeah.
If you want to go to the baseball game with Kyle and I, DM us. I've got a couple extra tickets.
Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I have seen it.
In my opinion, hilarious show.
Yes.
Makes it really funny of just like day-to-day situations that Larry David finds himself in. I'm finding myself in the thick of a plot line for Curb Your Enthusiasm because I don't technically know if we're going on the TCU podcast as guests or if they're coming on our podcast as guests. And so I'm not quite sure how to play that moving forward here.
Would it be funny if we recorded it without their knowledge and just put it on our feed? Not without their knowledge, but we could put it on both.
That's what I don't know. Like, are we going to send them a link? Are they going to send us a link? Who's publishing it? Who's joining who?
Right.
Are they previewing the series with some Texas Tech color? Are we previewing the series with some TCU color? I really don't know. I think the language in the DMs has been so ambiguous. I'm not actually sure what we're walking into here.
Should we alpha them? Because we went on their podcast. I think it's time for them to come on our podcast.
That's fair.
And then it's a home series, so we invite them to
They're on our turf.
Lubbock.
Yeah. I say we move forward with that strategy.
Also, is JD going to be in Lubbock? He said he might be.
I think at least one of them will be.
Well, they shouldn't buy tickets because I have tickets for them. You need to tell them that.
Okay. Well, we'll get in the DMs pretty quick here.
All right.
And settle this.
Glad we're doing this live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Also, alphaing them was a joke if they listen to this. I know they take it in a couple times. Are the Rangers going to be good? Yes. What's the podcast etiquette here, Larry David?
It would be a funny episode. I love that show.
Larry David on a podcast. You're welcome, Ryan. Rangers country. Final thoughts, Texas Tech. We're going to Omaha. Be prepared. All right. See y'all.
Love y'all.